Hi, this is Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here at 66 in Broadway. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome a good friend, Dr. Jeanne Zaino, who is a senior analyst, Appliedtechonomics, professor of political science at Iona College in beautiful New Rochelle,
That's right.
New York. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. It's thrilling. It's a beautiful studio.
Isn't it great?
It's awesome. What a view.
And you've been in a few studios.
A few.
Yeah.
Just a few. I've seen you in a few.
Yeah, well, we work. Here's the thing. We've also worked together in a couple of different studios. Real quick, while we're doing this at the end of 2016, move into 17, this will be seen after that. Your biggest takeaway from this, the election that just happened, you may have remembered.
What election, Steve? What election?
and you and I were on a couple of networks talking about it. What was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is the fact that we've seen, I think, a huge shift, not just in the United States, but across Europe and much of the industrialized Western world, this kind of wave of populism that I think is sweeping across the world. And I think my biggest takeaway is that many of us who do this for a living should have seen this coming a lot earlier than we did. So whether you're looking at Brexit, you're looking at what's happened in Italy or the Netherlands or the United States, you see very similar strains of a real frustration out there and a real need for people to express how frustrated they are with the status quo, particularly the economic status quo. So I think my biggest takeaway was shame on so many of us, me included, for having missed this, huge movement. And I give Donald Trump credit. I give Bernie Sanders credit for really being in touch with people on the ground in a way many in the party elite and the establishment simply weren't. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Why did we miss it, Jeanne?
I think we miss it because we, first of all, we do have this geographic centered in the Northeast on this Acela corridor. So we encounter certain types of people, and we may not be encountering people from the rest of the country. I think that's part of it. I think also we miss it because there has been an economic recovery, but it's been so uneven. And I think we've missed those people for whom the recovery has never come to fruition. And so, you say, oh, you look at the job numbers, right? Since Obama took office, they've improved dramatically. And to his credit. But that's exactly right. It's been an uneven, really uneven recovery. So I think for those reasons, but I also think we simply aren't in touch with large segments of the population that really matter and want a voice and want to have something to say.
Jeanne, one of the things you and I talk about, not just on the air, but offline as well, is leadership, I'm fascinated by it. You are as well, particularly political leadership. We have no idea what kind of president Donald Trump will be. This will be seen in 2017. What is your sense of his leadership style, particularly the way he communicates in public, social media and otherwise? What's your sense of it?
We haven't seen him in action yet in terms of being in office. So, I think we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. But my sense so far is that he is incredibly adaptable and adapting. And that, to me, is a big plus. He will come out and say he is in favor of a particular policy. And when somebody comes and they explain to him the reality, he will change his mind.
Why is that a good thing?
I think it's a good thing because I think that here is somebody who's never held public office. He's not an expert in many of these policy arenas, and no one person is, but he's willing to put together a team and he's willing to listen. So whether it's on something like global warming, for instance, is something that he's changed his mind on. So I think we've seen him with an ability to adapt, an ability to change. I think he's very good in terms of communicating with people, and I think that has, really shown itself.
What about the Twitter thing?
The Twitter
does it concern you at all?
It does concern me because I think once he gets into office, he's going to have to be careful as to what he is saying and what those messages portend to people. But I think a good deal is going to have to do with his administration, the people around him who can clarify what he means. But, this is uncharted territory. We've never had a president on Twitter in the way he is. So this is new for all of us, and I think we're going to have to see how this plays out. So I really think it's an open question what kind of leader he's going to be. And I think a big question is how much is he going to enjoy it? I have to say, so far, he seems like he's enjoying it. And I think enjoying it is a big part of the job. You have to want to do a job like that. And he seems to be enjoying it enormously.
Play this out a little bit more. The mood of the country, how divided we are. The whole thing about Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote and Donald Trump clearly winning the Electoral College by a lot. Yeah. Talk to us about how divided we are and along what lines and why it matters.
I don't think we've ever seen, at least in my lifetime, a division to this extreme. This is, as you mentioned, we don't have elections often in this country where you have a popular vote winner lose the Electoral College. We had it in 2000, was the first time in over 100 years, and then we have it again with Gore and Bush in 2016. And that speaks to how divided the country is. And you can just look at the polling numbers. I know the polls have gotten a lot of flack, but they're also really clear on these divisions. And so I think we are incredibly divided. But I think one thing that does unite us is our real frustration with what has not been happening in Washington. And that is where I think the focus needs to be. It's not a surprise to me. I mean, his election was a surprise to me, but it's not a surprise to me that people are this frustrated when you look at what Washington has not tackled in the last 10, 20 years. And this is not about Barack Obama or George W. Bush by any stretch of the imagination. This is about our government almost grinding to a halt. You look at things like the Sandy Hook shooting and the fact that you have 90% of the public supporting common sense gun reform, and yet they haven't been able to move on it. You look at something like the Zika virus. Most people say, yes, we should do what we can to make sure we address this fundamental health crisis. Very hard for them to get that going on that. You look at, the shutting down of the government, the number of times it did in the last 5 years. That's where I think people are united, that we need a government that works. And until and unless we get that, I think you're going to see this incredible frustration.
Jeanne, respectfully, along those lines, in terms of bringing the country together, right? What do you see in Donald Trump that causes you to say he has the skills, the tools, and the temperament, the demeanor, to bring people together, not just simply remind people that he won and won bigly, or big league, I'm not sure what word he uses. I get confused.
You said that very well.
I'm not sure. And also, as we do this program, he actually tweeted recently that he also is convinced he won the popular vote because millions of people voted illegally. I'm not sure what the evidence is for that.
There's no evidence.
Well, I'm not going to go back and talk about that, but here's my point. What does that have to do with bringing the country together? It's a loaded question, I know, but if the spirit is to bring the country together, what do you see in Donald Trump to do that?
I don't think we've seen anything yet that shows or suggests that he's going to be able to unite the country, and I think that's a real concern. My point was, the one positive I see is that we have a Republican in the White House and Republicans in Congress, which means, and I'm not saying that I would have voted this way, but which means that at least if they can come together, which is more likely than a Democrat in the White House and Republicans in Congress, the government can start moving forward and things will get done.
Jeanne, I'm so sorry for interrupting, but what does that have to do with bringing the country together?
Because I do believe that if the government starts moving on policy issues, that may be a way forward.
I mean, get stuff done.
Get stuff done.
What about if the stuff that gets done, devil's advocate,
yeah.
What about if the stuff that gets done causes a greater rift for those who feel they are not benefiting from those things that get done?
Then we're going to be as divided as we are now, if not more. And I think that's where we have to wait and see what they actually do. It's very difficult to pass policy in this country, even though it's a unified Republican government in this 2017, that is, going to be as extreme, I think, as many people feel. He can certainly appoint very conservative Supreme Court justices. They probably have the numbers on the Senate to get those confirmed. So those things can certainly divide people. I think we have to take a wait-and-see attitude. But to your point, we don't know what they're going to do. But there's many people who feel you've got to do something because so little has gotten done.
Let me ask you this about Hillary Clinton. What was it about her, in looking back? What was it about her that, yes, she did win the popular vote, but she did not win this election in 2016. And so many people thought that this was her election to win. What was it about her that failed so clearly, politically?
I think there were a few things. Number one, I think it's a far bigger issue than Hillary Clinton. I never blame the individuals. I don't think this win is about Donald Trump. I think it's about bigger forces. And I don't think the loss is about Hillary Clinton. I think it's about bigger forces. To many people, Hillary Clinton was backwards looking. It was not her time. The wind was always at the back of a change candidate in this election, not somebody who seemed to be embracing the third term of the president leaving. Even though Barack Obama has really high approval ratings, Hillary Clinton was the third term of Barack Obama. In the same way, Christine Quinn in New York City would have been the fourth term of Mayor Bloomberg. It's really hard to win a third term at the presidential level. So I don't think it was her time. And I think she, I don't think they ran it.
Excuse me, could she have connected better with people on a human, personal level? That's my obsession, is about connecting with people. You think even if she had connected more on a human, personal level, nah, you're the third term of Obama, not happening.
I think it may have helped her, but do I think she could have? I don't know. I think Hillary Clinton did everything she personally could. I think she would have been stronger had she been talking about the economics. And that's where I think they had a real problem. The economic message was absent.
You are smart.
Thank you, Steve Adubato. I like to say your last name.
Or I like to say Appliedtechonomics.
Yeah, it's a great name, right?
Dr. Jeanne Zaino. Thank you. Senior Analyst, Appliedtechonomics. I said it wrong the first time, I apologize. Professor of Political Science, Iona College. And you do know that I spent a year up in your shell at Iona.
I know. You are one of our favorites up there.
Then why did they ask me not to come back the year after and I went back to Rutgers?
Well, they're lost.
Listen, Jeanne.
I would have asked you back.
Well, you are the best, and thank you so much for coming
much.
in. We appreciate you in the public television family.
Thank you.
Stay with us right back right after this.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey. Healing begins here. Berkeley College, TD Bank, Rowan University, New Jersey Resources, Fedway Associates, and by Gary's Wine and Marketplace. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.